Imagine turning on your tap and realizing that the water that you've been drinking is laced with toxic chemicals. Chemicals so toxic, they're known as forever chemicals. In today's video, we're revealing startling findings that show how these toxic substances are contaminating the drinking water for millions of Americans. The question is, are you one of them? According to testing published earlier in 2024 by the Environmental Protection Agency and reporting by Tom Perkins in The Guardian, around 70 million Americans are already exposed to these toxic forever chemicals. And here's the kicker. This is only based on data for about 1/3 of the public water system. With more testing underway, we could be looking at over 200 million people affected, or 60% of the US population. And that's not even counting private wells, which could impact an additional 8 million people. This extensive nationwide assessment by the EPA is the first of its kind, and the findings align with independent assessments. The contamination isn't confined to specific areas or socioeconomic groups, though. It's a widespread issue affecting countless communities across the country. Exploring this further, a study titled Peril in the Pipeline, Unraveling the Threads of PFAS Contamination in the U.S. Drinking Water Systems, was published in April of 2024. It explores the distribution of polyfluoroalkyl substances, or PFAS, across the United States and investigates how these substances are linked to public water systems and community characteristics. Before we get into all of that, though, what are PFAS? These are a group of over 9,000 different synthetic chemicals known for their resistance to heat, water, and grease. They've been used in everything from firefighting foams, your waterproof jackets, and nonstick cookware.
PFAS are industrial chemicals that consist of a chain of carbon surrounded by fluorine atoms, and the carbon-fluorine bond is perhaps the strongest in the periodic table. It takes the energy of lightning to break it, and PFAS are forever. Once you have a PFAS, it never breaks down in the environment, and sadly enough, all the ones that have been well studied have been found to be toxic in one of a variety of ways. So a chemical that's toxic and never breaks down is a big worry.
Unfortunately, they don't break down easily, and they're bioaccumulative, which means they can accumulate in our environment and in our bodies.
What we find is that in the food chain, these molecules that go into organisms and lodge into the fat or oils in their cells or in their tissues and stay there, because they aggregate. These longer chain ones tend to stay in the fat and not want to get into urine and be excreted from the bodies. And so what you find is up the food chain, they accumulate, they bioaccumulate. They've even seen whales and polar bears with PFAS in their bodies as a result of this bioaccumulation and the fact that they're very resistant to degradation.
PFAS exposure is linked to several serious health conditions, including cancer, thyroid disease, and chronic kidney disease. In fact, about 95% of U.S. adults and adolescents are exposed to these chemicals, primarily through their drinking water, but consumer goods as well. This study used data from the EPA's third unregulated contaminant monitoring rule, the Census Bureau, and the Bureau of Labor Statistics, to identify contamination hotspots and assess the relationship between PFAS levels and various factors like the size of public water systems and the socioeconomic attributes of the communities they serve. Here are a few things that the researchers found. First, the contamination hotspots. So PFAS contamination varies significantly across different regions. In some areas, particularly those with larger public water systems, higher population densities and non-surface water sources showed higher levels of contamination. Second, the socioeconomic factors. The study found that communities with higher populations of non-white individuals had lower levels of PFAS in their drinking water. This may be due to a variety of factors, including differences in industrial activity and water sources. And third, the industrial and household contributions. The contamination isn't just from industrial sources. PFAS can also leach into the environment from household products that contain these chemicals, which can then find their way into our drinking water systems. By mapping out these contamination hotspots, the study provides a clearer picture of where PFAS levels are the highest in the United States. This is critical for targeting remediation efforts and protecting vulnerable communities. The study identified 4 major PFAS contamination hotspots. These span 10 states and 149 counties. So let's break it down according to each hotspot. The first hotspot is in the southeastern United States. This is the largest hotspot. It covers parts of Alabama, Georgia, and Tennessee. It includes 66 counties, 18 in Alabama, 31 in Georgia, and 17 in Tennessee. This region of the country is notable for industrial activity, particularly carpet manufacturing, and the use of PFAS firefighting foam. Additionally, the presence of PFAS manufacturing sites and significant legal actions against companies like DuPont, now Chemours, or 3M, Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing Company, highlight the impact of industrial practices on the local water quality. The second largest hotspot is in the northeastern part of the United States. This is encompassing New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York, Delaware, and Connecticut, and includes 48 different counties. This is one of the most densely populated parts of the country, and with a population density 9 times higher than the national average. The highest consumption of PFAS-containing products, like detergents and cosmetics, contribute to this contamination. Wastewater treatment systems in the region often struggle to remove PFAS chemicals, leading to higher levels in drinking water. The third hotspot is in the Carolinas. This hotspot covers North Carolina and South Carolina. It's primarily linked to industrial activities, such as manufacturing, firefighting, and waste disposal. Notably, DuPont's Fayetteville Works plant has been a major source of PFAS contamination in the Cape Fear River watershed. The use of aqueous film-forming foam, or AFFF, at military bases, airports, and other industrial sites has also contributed to high levels of PFAS in this region.
If there's a fire and you spray this foam on the surface of liquids, water, airplanes, whatever, it will snuff out the fire right away. They're highly effective these foams are highly effective at stopping fires. Thus, they've been embraced for firefighting foams. They're also known as AFFF, which stands for aqueous film-forming foams. And they were marketed by several companies, manufactured and marketed by several companies for firefighting foams. They're actually the top mil spec. In other words, military really appreciates these foams to put out fires in critical areas like naval ships, aircraft carriers, hangars, these sorts of things. They're widely used on airports throughout the world. And they one of the ways they get into the environment is by training. When they at airports and actually just even residential firefighters, or they very often have training areas where they dig a pit and fill it full of a flammable liquid like diesel fuel, light it, and then put it out with these foams at practice. And that's one of the ways that these chemicals get into the atmosphere and into the environment.
And the fourth hotspot that we will be overviewing today is the Colorado hotspot. This area includes 10 counties in Colorado, notably around military and aerospace facilities. Research has shown that sites near AFFF use have significantly higher PFAS concentrations compared to distant locations. Interestingly, larger public water systems often have higher PFAS levels compared to smaller ones. This might seem odd, since we usually think smaller systems struggle more to handle contaminants to this level, but the reason might be because larger systems serve more people. And more people means there's more use of PFAS-containing products, leading to more contamination in those water sources. The research also shows that groundwater sources tend to have higher PFAS levels. Unlike surface water, which is usually naturally filtered, groundwater doesn't remove PFAS effectively. These substances are persistent and accumulative, making them a tough challenge for water treatment. But why are densely populated areas hit so much harder? It's all about consumption. In these regions, people use more products containing PFAS, like detergents and food packaging. This results in more PFAS ending up in wastewater systems, which often can't fully remove these substances. You might think that wealthier and more affluent communities would have better drinking water, but the study didn't find a clear link between PFAS contamination or community wealth or race. And this could be because at the time of the data collection, PFAS risks weren't as widely recognized, leading to a lack of targeted treatment and assessment efforts. The study also uncovered interesting links between certain industries. Notable goods manufacturing, healthcare, and government operations, such as military bases, are associated with PFAS contamination. These sectors use and dispose of PFAS in ways that significantly impact local water supplies. So, what can we do about this? One approach is to introduce regulations and taxes on industries that produce and release PFAS into the environment. Additionally, improving wastewater treatment technologies and reducing the use of PFAS-containing products are critical steps. But public awareness is also key. By informing people about PFAS and its effects, we can encourage changes in consumption habits and for better treatment technologies. Even though the EPA has been taking steps to address this issue, like adding PFAS to their list of hazardous substances, more needs to be done to reduce exposure and prevent future contamination. The EPA's PFAS Strategic Roadmap outlines plans to minimize PFAS discharge, improve detection, and help disadvantaged communities. However, given the persistent nature of these chemicals, tackling the issue will require a multifaceted approach, which includes better technology and stricter regulations. But in the meantime, what can you do as an individual consumer? If you're concerned about PFAS in your drinking water, consider using a water filter specifically designed to use these chemicals. When you're researching water filters, what you want to look for is a certification that will be labeled as NSF/ANSI 53. But if you're using a reverse osmosis filter, it will be NSF/ANSI 58. You'll also want to stay informed with your local water quality reports and advocate for stronger regulations in your community. Make sure you register to vote and you're supporting politicians both locally and nationally that are pro-clean water. If you found this video informative, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more updates on environmental issues, especially related to PFAS and clean water.